Hello, my name is Doug Ferrier. This is my second presentation. I'm presenting on drones and cybersecurity. This is a very new topic to me. I had been looking through some of the security issues and came upon this topic. So that's why I chose it, and on with the presentation. I'm in an interesting location right now. I'm right near Niagara Falls. I'm about 10 minutes away from Niagara Falls itself. This is an actual picture, and these are all over on the Canadian side of Niagara Falls, about the no drone zone. And it's interesting. Niagara Falls is one of the best places in the world to capture drone footage. A video of the majestic falls, or a trip over Clifton Hill, or a lot of vineyards are around Niagara Falls. There's approximately 100 within about 40 minutes. There's about 100 vineyards. So it makes it really a great location. But there are a lot of rules attached to flying drones on both the Canadian and U.S. border. And you can see there, that is on the Canadian side. On the other side there is the American Falls. So drones do have a lot of benefits, and this is why we see the rise in the popularity. A lot of the places, construction sites, now use drones for safety. They're finding about a 55% increase in safety, which is excellent. They've saved a lot of lives using drones. This is from a few years back, talking about 133 lives. They're talking about actually surveying quite often, and they're talking about 1,000 acres of farmland that can be inspected in one day, which is an incredible amount. They're also talking about 68% of homes actually selling a lot faster, and it's also about surveying. So a lot of surveying time can be cut down by the use of drones. So they have really grown in popularity over the last few years. In 2019 and 2020, there were some changes. There was a Consumer Drone Safety Act put in place back in 2015 by the U.S. government. And then what happened in 2019 is the Security Drone Act. And the bill would prevent, or has prevented, some government agencies now from purchasing drones based solely on their country of manufacture and without regard to any particular technical issue. The country of most interest is China. Okay, I'll talk a little bit more about them in a minute. The U.S. government, don't want the drones to be flying over and taking videos and pictures of restricted airspace and sending it to China and or the Chinese government. Okay, so that was as of 2019. What's happened very recently, as of January of this year, the U.S. Department of the Interior has halted the operations of its entire drone fleet, except in emergency situations, as the department wants to review whether the drones manufactured by designated foreign-owned companies are a threat to national security. And the foreign-owned company is in China, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But they are worried that these drones have been hacked or have software in them that is relaying information back to China and or the Chinese government. These drones often have high technology components, but just like a computer or something like an IoT device, they can be hacked like any other technology, and then they can be used as a weapon in the hand of attackers. And literally, we've seen drone strikes and so forth, dealing with the munitions and weapons. If somebody actually was to hack into that and had control of that, obviously that would be a big security issue. Right now, drones can be used to hack servers, spy on networks, extract data, and block communications. Attackers can attach a small computer such as Raspberry Pi, which is tiny, to a drone. They can fly that drone over various places where they wouldn't normally be able to do or able to allow to enter. And then they could actually exploit the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or RFID identification vulnerabilities. Raspberry Pi is very common. It's a very small computer, a little bigger than a credit card. It's used often in very small, very educational pursuits, educational settings for training. And the language Python can be used on Raspberry Pi hardware, so it can be programmed. In one experiment, they actually found researchers, they used a drone to intercept data from the attendees' phones. So they went to a conference. They had this Raspberry Pi attached to a drone. They actually had software on it called Snoopy that ran on the Raspberry Pi attached to the drone. And it could actually mimic the Wi-Fi networks that the victims were connected to. And they were able to actually steal information that used on the devices that the people were using inside the conference. Very scary, but they actually did test that. And they've actually flown Raspberry Pi on a number of drones. I read a number of reports where they said they had attached to the drone. And because it is so small, it's very lightweight. A drone could easily carry it. Could carry it into restricted airspace also, which is one of the big concerns. And again, if it's already being sent over from the Chinese government, it's possible that it's already being connected from there, and that's another reason why we have these cybersecurity issues. There is an actual Russian website, which is on the open internet. It's not on the dark web or not hidden, but it offers hacks for all the DJI products. And this apparently removes the geofencing, which we're going to talk about in a second, altitude and speed limitations. So if the Russians can do it, then it's a fair call to believe that a committed Western hacker could do the exact same. So as I was mentioning, from China, the DJI products are the ones now from the DOI that have been halted. So DJI products, the drones, are coming from China, and as of right now, as of 2020, those have been halted. DJI was one of the biggest suppliers of drones to the U.S. government. And right now, as I said, that's no longer. They're not shipping anything back and forth, and nor are they using them for everyday purposes. One of the things interesting, if hackers have hacked into the products previous to shipping them here from China, which is one of the big concerns, obviously, of the U.S. government, they could actually get access to flight logs showing where the drone had flown on each trip. Again, one of the big concerns is restricted airspace or restricted actual areas where these drones could get into. Photos and videos taken by the drones during its flight could happen. And another scary thing is actual live video feeds taken from the drones in real time during flights. And map views from the drone users' control feed in real time. As I mentioned, a lot of drones are out there nowadays for using for surveying farms, surveying areas around homes, and we could actually get the map views from those drones. There are a few cybersecurity solutions. Geofencing, as I mentioned, is one of the big ones. The problem is, so as I mentioned, the hacker's solution removes the geofencing. So somebody who takes a drone alters it so that they remove the geofencing, the altitude and the speed limitations on it. In other words, they're removing all the limitations that are built into the actual drone for safety. So a developer or administrator must create a virtual border around a specified location in GPS or RFID enabled software. Technically, the geofence should generate a response the moment an unauthorized drone enters the defined area. But again, if the hackers have already taken off the geofencing notifications or something that detects the geofencing and stops it from passing through, then the geofencing really isn't a solution to the issue. Okay, so as I mentioned, the Russians have very easy ways to fix that, to remove those geofencing altitude and speed limitations. So we also have radar. So drone radars use a combination of noise detection, thermal detection, radio signal detection, and signal identification. And some drone radars also use microphones to recognize noise pattern. But again, there's been problems with the noise patterns, because if we have urban areas where these drones are flying into, those microphones with a lot of noise around them are ineffective. We also have acoustic sensors. Recognize the unique sounds generated by different drone types and run them against sound signatures database. If there's a match, the system triggers an alert. Again, sometimes with all the congestion in more of an urban area, that can be also ineffective. RF scanners, they actually examine the electromagnetic spectrum and find the transmissions, specific transmissions from the drones. However, again, some drones operate without any RF signals and only rely on GPS. So again, this method will in some cases be inefficient. And the last one is the thermal drones, using vision imaging cameras that work by detecting the heat and trying to look at the shape of the actual objects. That seems to be effective. Whereas the other ones are, there's always some type of way to get around them. Especially, a lot of sound, anything to do with sound, definitely if they're in a certain settings, it's not effective at all because of the surrounding sounds, obviously. But the thermal drones with the visioning, the imaging seems to work okay. It seems to be able to pick them up. Again, though, we're talking a lot of speed with these. The speed limitations have been removed by the hackers, so it's very hard to pick up even with the thermal imaging. So that is definitely, again, the speed is altering and affects things there. So, excuse me. There are cybersecurity solutions to try and detect them, trying to alert people from them, but there's not a lot of consistent ways to actually detect and actually alter the path. So those were the most current ways of defending against the hacking of drones. You can see here is a list of references, 2 pages. One thing you'll notice is that there are a lot of references that are very current, meaning from as early as 2016, but most are from 2019 and or 2020. So very new. It is a very big upcoming area of concern for cybersecurity. And as drone popularity grows, the cybersecurity concerns will also grow. There's a lot of information coming out right now, And as I have shown, even obviously the government is very concerned about this area. The hacking of drones and protecting restricted areas is very important. And right now, I mean, we're talking literally about a month ago. Things are actually escalating right now to make sure that everything is as secure as possible. Okay, thank you for watching my presentation.